Good day. Welcome to Pipeline Integrity Conference. I am Arun Kishore Ishwara. I am here to speak on the topic of marine corrosion, covering certain suggestions for improvement in pipeline technical tendering analysis on pre-pandemic tenders and for improving quality and for minimizing costs. The objective of my presentation is to improve pipeline quality, ease of workflow in pipeline projects, marine pipeline projects especially, reduce the cost, can say the capital cost, also the operation and maintenance costs. How I would be achieving the objectives is some structured, say, analysis on the tenders which I have gone through. So first I would like to explain you what is the post-COVID scenario, then current Indian oil and gas pipeline infrastructure and projects overview. Then I would speak about maritime pipeline projects, so design considerations, how the workflow is made for pipeline projects, that is during installation and commissioning. Then what are those pipeline project work difficulties I would like to bring out. Then I would suggest for improvements in the current scenario. In the post-COVID scenario, you would have increased bottlenecks in the logistics, increased push for self-reliance, protectionism from the government will be there, funds will be drying up with both government as well as the public sector undertaking units. Accelerated shift to renewable energy is there, and it will be much more taken proactively in this scenario. We will see reduce the infrastructure investment in oil and gas. And also you would see that increase the e-commerce will be there. All these factors would contribute to encouraging, say, electric power generation and reduce the retail utility of these oil and gas resources. So we would see a requirement coming up in localized areas, large demand, and reduce overall retailing costs, say demand. That is how we can visualize what is post-COVID scenario. So the research funding will be minimized. Then at the same time, we have to improve our quality and the workflow to consolidate whatever resources we have with us. So the current Indian oil and gas pipeline infrastructure, if you look at the public sector undertaking oil companies such as IOCL, HPCL, they operate large networks of pipelines. They are also new ports and industrial demand, which I listed in the previous slide. They will be there. Bulk consumers will be cropping up to meet the increased electric power generation. Then upgradation and replacing aging infrastructure will be there. Presently, PSU oil companies for the new projects, each oil company works independently on their own. Seldom these oil companies maintain their own design and project management teams. Most of the capital and maintenance costs or works are outsourced. So PSUs, they don't have dedicated, say, specialists for implementing maritime pipeline projects. They entrust the works to such specialized bodies such as Engineers India Limited or such firms which do the complete project, right from planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, everything. All the work is done by contracting firms. So when such firms are there, how do the Indian energy companies work with them? Basically, they act as owners, and for meeting their requirement, they are entrusting the works to specialized companies. Now, these specialized companies also have to be identified in a proper way, following, say, the norms laid out by the financial rules and the procurement of goods and services. So there is a common mode of finding a specialized entity also through tendering, and also the firm which is identified, it carries out the complete project installation, right from material supply, surveys, everything is done through tendering, open tendering at each and every stage. This is the requirement of public sector undertaking companies. So we have this particular channel is a key for implementing pipeline projects. So I'm trying to concentrate in this area. If you look at the pipeline scenario, you will find that the pipelines, they are basically can be classified into 4 or more categories. They are primarily to do with, say, what is the product that is flowing through the pipeline. That is the decisive thing to define this classification. Why do we do so? Because usually we have control on maintenance parameters, we have control on the pipeline infrastructure, but we don't have control on the product. So depending on that variability, pipelines are classified into number of ways. But what is the key pipeline where the demand is there in future is the class of pipeline that is coming under 4 loading and unloading pipelines. You would need, you say, to supply the bulk consumers in India, and the land route is often not feasible due to problems with the land acquiring and such things. So the easiest route would be marine pipeline, and with say you can introduce certain landfall points suitably and connect these bulk suppliers. And the design considerations, they are very elaborate. Marine pipeline project is highly complex because of the marine environment. You have to have a thorough understanding of the environment, ecosystem, the environment protection, then overall cost, how the pipelines are implemented. It is altogether a very complex project for its implementation. So the design specs can be prepared after elaborate study, and they can be specified in the tender documents, because I told you that we will be specifying everything through documents, written documents. So the current practices are that the PSUs list out elaborate requirements. Their own requirements are running into 700 pages or even exceeding that. It's highly complex operation. So PSUs want to take control of each and every parameter. In doing so, I find that it has become increasingly complex. The complex tender will lead to increased costs. It will lead to ambiguity with the contractor finalized, because ultimately the engineers have to work with the technical specs. When we refer to so many standards in our tendering and we cite our own specifications, which are in addition to the specifications laid out by the international, say, the industry, we will have difficulty with testing, procurement, increased cost for monitoring. All such things will come into picture. So apart from the design considerations which can be specified, corrosion protection is one of the key elements in a marine pipeline environment. Because of the corrosive environment, it can be specified in a number of ways, like raw material quality, extent of testing, pipeline fabrication, packing, handling, where you are stocking, how it is being transported, workmanship, geotechnical and hydrodynamic issues, everything you can consider. But there is more to it. That is due to the complexity of the pipeline laying. Usually, this corrosion protection, it can be specified for external, internal in the tender docs. That is what we see most of the time. Externally, coating and current cathodic protection system is being specified. Internal corrosion is highly variable, that I have listed. But overall, if you look at the project flow that happens in any pipeline project, it is something like this that I have listed. Initially, you identify a contractor specialist company, then the specialized company would further identify who will supply me the pipeline, who will supply me the corrosion protection equipment, who will do the coating. All such things will be specified individually, following the technical document prepared by the PSU, say in the tender. That is called technical specifications in the tender. So usually that is constantly referred to in this implementation. Now everywhere you see that 2 star marks I have provided in the flowchart where the tender documents are referred. It is in the initial bid tender, technical tendering, where the engineering specifications are listed with respect to design, location, layout, what are the civil, mechanical, electrical instrumentation, schedule timelines, all such things are mentioned. And also at the time of procurement of individual items, uh, where you have designed everything, location you have identified, layout, but when you are procuring the goods and services, you will have to further release the technical specs through inquiries, bids, or evaluation. So pipeline is a very complex job installation. It is highly variable, but we don't see it written in the technical specs often. Each ship is very highly specialized and the costs are tremendous here. This is one of the single most expensive item if you consider in a pipeline project, hiring the ships and how much time you would hire and what kind of ship you would hire, what would be the capability. And also the pipeline layout will bring in a lot of issues with it. How the crew are handling the pipelines, whether they're welding it properly. Say some of the blocks that I have identified and presented to you in front, how the pipeline project would appear, say in unloading, that is transporting from the load to the pipeline laying vessel, then how the edges are prepared, how it is welded, each segment, because you don't have the entire pipeline in one go. You have to, the manufacturing facility will supply in standard lengths. They will be supplied with, say, factory coated coatings with concrete for, uh, say, to prevent the pipeline floating in water. So those the pipelines need to be handled very carefully. How they are being lifted, when during the lifting, how the operations are being done, whether the people have taken care in handling such pipeline, not damaging, not introducing stresses, because everything is going to affect your corrosion strength for that particular pipeline. Even the edge machining of the edges, how the welding is handled, what kind of inspection is done after the weld, what kind of pre and post treatments are being done. These are highly specialized and highly variable. So not everything can be taken care in the technical rendering, though the PSUs are making a good effort in increasing the volume, taking into detail every spec, but not everything can be specified. Moreover, once the joint is made, it has to be properly sealed to prevent water contact, seawater contact with the bare metal. And also, you have to take care of various other regular corrosion issues that are common to marine pipeline segment. So it is not only a specifications on the paper, but the contractor, their crew, their say engineers, everybody has to take care in handling the products. So that is where a lot of variability is there in the costing, but it is not being specified in the tenders. So these are the areas where I'm going to address and carry out a few, say, comparisons where what is going wrong. If you look at the tenders, they were prepared in great detail. Everything is being covered, and moreover, they are referring to many standards. That is one big hurdle actually to implement, to understand actually the design basis or even the requirements of the company. Because the moment too many standards are cited, the each standard will further refer to various other standards. So the understanding of that particular requirements become complex. This is where a lot of mistakes can be done, a lot of overestimation can be there, and say the groundsman may not get the complete clear picture actually what is being required out of their skill. So that is where one area. If you look at the pipeline international standards, we have the standard DNV STF 101, which is the primary referred standard for marine pipelines. It itself is a sufficient, self-sufficient standard because it refers to various other standards in ensuring the integrity of the pipeline, the corrosion protection, and all the design objectives. It gives overall guidance basically. And so reference to such standard is self-sufficient. Moreover, I told you that the operational difficulties are not being addressed in the tender. It cannot be addressed. So how do we overcome this difficulty is to identify a good contractor. Good contractor in the using the frameworks with financial rules or goods and procurement, it is often a very difficult job. Moreover, once you identify a contractor also, he would try to optimize his cost saving on such things such as logistics, maybe the pipeline laying vessel, he may cut down the cost by hiring a different cheaper alternatives. So ultimately, we do not have control on each and every parameter. So the entire exercise of detailing so much in the engineering technical aspects will be defeated at the end. So realizing this aspect, the oil company should look at these areas. They have to do a bit of exercise with the experts in the field who are contractors in laying out the pipelines, what are the issues which are coming. Then they have to consult their own team that is operating these pipelines, because they will be able to suggest what are the maintenance difficulties, what are the operational difficulties which are coming with the existing pipelines. They will be able to greatly enhance the pipeline integrity. They can contribute a lot. They can contribute a lot to cut down the costing also, operational cost. So when an oil company outsources everything, the in-house expertise that is there in the operation and maintenance is not received, captured. Moreover, time frames are not being, though they are being specified in some broad way, in especially in pipeline laying, the hiring costs are tremendously large, especially with respect to ships, logistics, and all such cranes and all. So it requires a careful analysis to cut down costs. Every chain you have to identify. The best part I would suggest, instead of going in a very consolidated, complex way, split down the tender into various work-based, say, aspects. Certain small scope, define a small scope, then give a timeline for it. You define the activity in the timeline, then work out the cost. Each step you further analyze into blocks, individual blocks. Carry out block by block in a whole lot of workflow together. The entire pipeline project would go for the implementation in one go, but it would be split up into individual elements so that there is a very careful control of the chain, the where the previous tenders were lacking. You will be able to see on the ground what is happening, where the time scheduling is increasing, where the costs are increasing. We can optimize the costing there at each and every step in this way. And also, you can request the financial bids to be given in the format that is being suggested, that the work-based items that we have identified, these can be addressed very carefully, that each scope is there, each time is there. So the financial bids should be received as per costing of individual blocks. So you would know, especially the PSU, the managers there will identify how much is work getting executed at what cost and what time. So they will be able to quantify the pipeline quality that is going ultimately in the location. Earlier, this was not so evident where the cost is going. If we actually ask for complete cost, without careful identification of these individual works and say the scopes that have been shown here. This is a very good project management idea. I think it should be implemented in the tendering for achieving our objectives. Moreover, the protectionism is going to last, such as DMI S&P policy, which talks about the purchase of only Indian goods, steel, iron, and steel. So oil companies not only have to look at just the project, but they have to also now open their eyes towards the Indian industry, who is manufacturing what is available, send their representatives, get a quality check, advise them on improving the quality, and improve the industry so that their project will be benefited in the long run. I think this is the way ahead in post-COVID scenario. Earlier, this exercise may be done in certain severity, but now more trust is there because of protectionism. We can't import everything from, say, other countries. And also, for say the utility of the PSU, the technical manpower availability is enhanced in post-COVID scenario because you can outsource or you can even offer technical consultancy to academic universities and institutions or the research bodies of in India, because you see the overall availability of these people have increased now because the research funding has gone down. So more people are available. So PSU can work on all these larger, say, scope effectively by managing them, forming work groups of specialists. This is some of the exercises. Moreover, for identification of the contractors, specialized contractors, the GFR rules may be tweaked a bit. Maybe the policy can be implemented, and it has to be in consultation with the technical team, not only left to the admin and the finance departments. The technical aspects also should come in to reduce this cost. That has to be stressed and brought out in various committees, and the top management should be convinced in this regard. So these are some of the suggestions that is what I would like to convey. And moreover, not the least, the environmental management is something very amiss in the projects. The environmental management is one of the single most important objective for marine projects. That itself should be included in a tender scope for the entire project. So I think with this we should be able to improve our view, because ultimately our business should not reflect dirty in the public because of say the renewable thrust which is on. People are looking down upon oil and gas, so we should not get the lackadaisical approach towards oil and gas for our continued prosperity. So that is one area which I would suggest for improvement. Thank you for paying attention to my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.